Hello everyone. Today's lesson we will discuss the word category adjectives. In this presentation, we will analyze the word class of adjectives in detail. We will explore their morphological properties. Then, we will explore their semantic and syntactic classification. And finally, we will study their syntactic differences that serve as evidence to set them apart. So let's start. Adjectives are used to describe nouns. They give information about the qualities the noun possesses or the class the noun belongs to. They are invariable, that is, they do not inflect for number. The same form is used for singular and plural nouns. For example, the Chrysler is a tall building. The adjective tall pre-modifies the singular noun head. Then we have the Chrysler and the one girl are tall buildings. In this case, the adjective tall pre-modifies a plural head, and the adjective does not change. It remains the same. This is different in Spanish, where we have un edificio alto in the singular form, dos edificios altos in the plural form. Another important characteristic of adjectives is that they are recursive. That is, they can be stacked one after the other. For example, the Chrysler is a tall, old building. In this part, we will discuss adjectives' morphological criteria. Adjectives can be identified by looking at their form. We might find adjectives with derivational affixes such as ing as in interesting, al as in classical, ous as in dangerous, and ful as in beautiful, among others, of course. We can also identify adjectives with inflectional affixes such as er as in taller or est as in tallest. These suffixes contain grammatical information about comparative or superlative forms. Next, we will see that morphological criteria are not always useful to classify adjectives. Here, we can observe that not all adjectives have the endings we have seen in the previous slide. For example, the adjective old is a simple word with no affixes. On the other hand, we also have cases such as the words impertinent, which ends in "ent", and it belongs to the word category of adjectives, and the word component, which shares the same ending, but it is a noun. They share the same ending, but belong to different word categories. They do not contain the same suffix. This shows that the form is not always helpful when trying to identify adjectives, so morphological criteria alone are not enough to classify them. We have seen in the previous slides that there are two types of inflectional suffixes that give grammatical information about comparative or superlative forms. Here, we will see that this is not possible with all adjectives. The comparative form of an adjective indicates a greater extent to which the normal form of the adjective applies. For instance, taller. Here, we can see that the adjective tall takes the inflectional suffix er to form the comparative form. On the other hand, the superlative form indicates the maximal extent of the adjective, as in the tallest building. Here, inflectional suffix est is attached to the adjective tall to form the superlative form. As you may know, some adjectives such as good or bad are exceptional or irregular. The comparative form of good is better and its superlative form is best. Similarly, the comparative form of bad is worse and its superlative form is worst. We can observe that there is no resemblance between the absolute form good and bad and the comparative and superlative forms. We have seen so far that some adjectives form morphological comparative and superlatives. Here, we will see that some adjectives form comparatives and superlatives analytically. This means that there is no single word form for the comparative and superlative. Instead, the words more or less are used. For example, roses are more beautiful than tulips. Traveling by bus is less expensive than traveling by car. For the superlative form, the words most and least are used. For instance, roses are the most beautiful flowers. Walking home is the least practical thing to do. The general rule is that adjectives that do not end in y with two or more syllables take analytical comparative and superlative forms. Other examples can be eager, interesting, or famous. In the following slide, we will see adjectives' distributional criteria. According to distributional criteria, adjectives can also be classified taking into account the position they occupy within a phrase or a sentence. APs typically occupy two positions in English, the attributive position or the predicative position. Adjectives appear in predicative position when they pre-modify a noun in a noun phrase. For example, the tall girl looked at me. In this case, the adjective tall appears in attributive position because it pre-modifies the noun girl. So we can say that adjectives in attributive position supply more information about the character, the nature, or the state of the noun they pre-modify. On the other hand, adjectives appear in predicative position when they are placed after link verbs such as appear, be, become, feel, look, remain, seem, smell, and sound. For example, Mary felt happy. The adjective happy appears in predicative position because it is the complement of the link verb felt. These adjectives are used to state something about the referent of another constituent. In our example, the adjective happy states something about the constituent Mary, which appears in a different phrase, in a different constituent. Note that we do not say attributive adjective or predicative adjective, but adjective in attributive or predicative position when we describe adjectives' distributional criteria. In this part, we will discuss the semantic classification of adjectives, that is, the two types of adjectives there are according to the type of meaning they provide. Take for instance the adjective fast in I don't like fast food, and the adjective tasty as in this is a tasty salad. Fast places the noun food into a particular class. It classifies it. On the other hand, tasty provides a quality or property of the noun salad. As the meaning they convey is different, they belong to different types of adjectives. Fast is a classifying adjective because it refers to the class the noun belongs to, whereas tasty is a qualitative adjective because it provides a quality or a characteristic of the noun it modifies. These adjectives have distinct characteristics, and we will present them in the following slide. As we have seen in the previous slide, the adjective tasty is a qualitative adjective because it provides a quality, characteristic, or property of the noun salad. Qualitative adjectives have certain characteristics. The most salient one is that they can be graded. That is, they can be the complement of the degree words such as very, quite, rather, or absolutely. For example, it is possible to say, this is a very tasty salad. Here, the adjective tasty appears as the complement of the degree word very. Another property of qualitative adjectives is that because they can be graded, they can take comparative or superlative forms. For instance, my salad looks tastier than yours. This is the tastiest salad I've ever had. In these examples, the adjective tasty takes the inflectional suffixes er and est to form the morphological comparative and superlative forms, and the sentences are grammatical. Finally, qualitative adjectives can appear in both attributive and predicative possession. For example, this is a tasty salad. This salad looks tasty. In number 4, the adjective tasty appears in attributive position because it pre-modifies the noun salad, whereas in number 5, the adjective tasty appears in predicative possession because it is the complement of the link verb looks. Now, we will see some characteristics of classifying adjectives taking our example, I don't like fast food. The main characteristic of classifying adjectives is that they are non-gradable. That is, they cannot be the complement of degree words such as very, to, so, etc. So, it is not possible to say, I love very fast food. Here, fast appears as complement of the degree word very, and the result is ungrammatical. In the second place, because they are non-gradable, these adjectives cannot take comparative or superlative forms. Let's see some evidence. Number 2, hamburgers are faster food than chips. 3, hamburgers are the fastest food ever. In these sentences, the adjective fast takes the inflectional suffixes er and est, and the results are ungrammatical sentences. Finally, again, because they are non-gradable, classifying adjectives can only appear in attributive possession. This means that they cannot appear in predicative possession. For example, 4. Fast food is bad for your health. Sentence 4 is a grammatical one. Fast appears in pre-modifier position, that is, in attributive position. However, in number 5, the food is fast. Fast appears in predicative position as complement of the link verb is, and the result is an ungrammatical sentence. In the following slide, we will see that these characteristics can serve as tests to distinguish between qualitative and classifying adjectives. We have already discussed the characteristics of both adjectives' semantic types. Here, we will see that these properties can become tests to tell whether a given adjective belongs to one class or the other. So we know that qualitative adjectives can appear with degree words, as in very tasty food, but classifying adjectives can't. That's why very fast food is ungrammatical. We also know that qualitative adjectives can take comparative or superlative forms, so it is possible to say tastier food or the tastiest food, but we can't say faster food or the fastest food because classifying adjectives are non-gradable, so they cannot take comparative or superlative forms. Then we know that qualitative adjectives can appear in predicative possession, so we can say the food is tasty. But we can't say the food is fast because classifying adjectives cannot appear in predicative possession. One characteristic these two adjectives have in common is that they both can appear in attributive possession. That is, we can say this is a tasty salad or fast food is bad for you. These properties will be used as tests to classify adjectives. So whenever you have to classify an adjective, you will apply these tests and we'll discover which class the given adjective belongs to. A comment aside, in this slide we will see that adjectives are not intrinsically qualitative or classifying ones. That is, they do not belong to one classification by nature. Their classification depends on the type of noun they modify. For example, we have seen that the adjective fast is a classifying adjective when it pre-modifies the noun food. But look at these sentences. Cheetahs are very fast. Cheetahs are the fastest animals in the planet. Cheetahs are fast. What type of adjective is fast in these examples? Here we can see that the adjective fast can be graded as in number 1, where it appears as complement of the degree word very. As it can be graded, then it can take the superlative form as in number 2, where it takes the inflectional suffix est, and finally it can appear in predicative possession as in 3, where it appears as complement of the link verb. So as it passes all the tests we have seen before, we can conclude that fast in this context is a qualitative adjective. Well, now that we know everything about adjectives, that we know their properties, their classifications and everything, we will see how to describe adjectives in a complete form. And we will use 5 steps so that we do not forget anything. And we will see this with an example, which is I love classical music. We will analyze classical. Our first step, of course, is to say the type of word. So we will say the word classical is an adjective. Our second step is to talk about morphological criteria. Here we can say, according to morphological criteria, it is an adjective because it contains the derivational suffix al, typical of adjectives such as emotional, economical, technical, etc. Number 3, we will talk about semantic classification. So we can say, according to the semantic classification, classical is a classifying adjective because it places the noun music into a particular class. Here what we do is to provide the reason why this adjective belongs to this class. Then, in number 4, we will apply the tests. We will include the tests and the explanation. So we will say, as it is a classifying adjective, it cannot be graded. Very classical music. It cannot take comparative or superlative forms. This music is more classical than the one we listened to yesterday. This is the most classical music I've ever heard. And it cannot appear in predicative possession. The music is classical. We need to include these tests. This is mandatory. We cannot forget any of them. 1 or 2 are not enough. We need to include the 3 of them. Finally, our last step is to talk about distributional criteria. So here we will talk about the position of the adjective. For example, we will say, according to distributional criteria, it appears in attributive position because it pre-modifies the noun music. These steps should be followed in every description of adjectives, and in this way you will not forget any important or relevant detail. In the following slide, you will have to solve a problem on your own. Are you ready? Food for thought. So here's the problem. What type of adjective is romantic in these 2 contexts? 1. Nicholas Sparks writes romantic novels. 2. I'm not a romantic person. Apply the tests and you will easily answer the question. So, This is the end of this interesting, colorful, long and explanatory presentation. Told you, adjectives are recursive.